I'm Matt with Matt's Equipment Repair, and people have been asking me to put up a video of how to change ropes on two-cycle equipment, which is usually the worst. Cheaper the two-cycle equipment, the harder it is to do the rope. So what I've grabbed is this Craftsman Poulan blower. Got a starter rope hanging out, and the hard part on these is they bury the starter. The starter's dead set in the middle, so to do this one, we need to split the case, take off the impeller, unbolt the motor, pull out the motor, then we can get to the starter. It's not that bad, but what we'll do on this one is first, we need to get this case housing apart, which is just a bunch of little bolts and one really long knob. There we go. So this, I'll see if I can do this towards the camera. Works a lot better if you put a battery back in. These, if you don't have power tools, take a lot of time because they put a whole bunch of bolts all the way around that we're going to get out. Alright, I paused the video while I took out all the screws. No need to make you watch taking out a screw over and over again. So all the screws have been taken out all around the case. Now the case will come apart. That's going to leave us with the impeller. The crankshaft sticks through the impeller. This bolts that on, so that's going to need to come off. Easiest way to take that off is just going to be with an impact. Okay, so the impeller's off. Now we're going to have 4 more screws just around here to take off, and that's what holds on the motor. Okay, so I got those 4 screws out. This side, there's a few screws that hold this plastic cover on. This plastic cover will need to come off as well. Now we have access to the engine, which is going to be loose. Now, the throttle linkage is also going to come out. Or it's going to fight me. So on this one, it would actually probably even be easiest if we just took off the carburetor first. But there we go. So now the motor can be separated. Normally you wouldn't need to take off these wires, but for me to hold this up for the camera, I'm going to pop this switch off here. Take that out. Okay, so now motor's separate, starter housing, and here is our starter. Okay, so this starter held in also by a couple of screws. This plate is what holds our starter spool on. So our starter, if we pull it out a little bit here, this rope's no good. We'll cut off the rope, let it come undone. Now if you're careful, when you take this out, the spring won't pop out. That's what we don't want to pop out, is the spring. The springs, if you have access to them once it's off, it's best if you lubricate them with something. I got some PB Blaster, spray a little bit in there. That just helps it from rusting up later. So your spool, you want to undo the spool and take out the rest of the rope. Okay, rope's out. New rope. New rope, you always want to burn the ends of the rope. The rope's made of nylon, and so it will kind of melt. And by melting the ends, it stops it from fraying later. And you can also shape it, leaves it kind of pointed, makes it easier to poke it through. So I'm going to carefully measure 1 arm length. That's about what we're going to have. All right, so now we have rope burned on both ends. And that we're going to feed into the spool right here. Tie a knot on this side. And pull it down tight. Now when we put this in and we start winding it, we're going to wind in the direction the paw's point, or in this case it just has 4 teeth. So we're going to wind this one clockwise, which is the same direction that the teeth are pointing. If you wind it the wrong direction, then you're going to screw up the starter spring. So here we're going to feed the rope through the little tube. I'm not used to doing this at an angle that works for a camera, but we're going to see how this goes. So now we can work until you'll feel it kind of drop into that spring like that. Okay, now on the other side, you want to put a double knot. This is the side that if you don't do a good knot, it will pull out. So double knot, pull it through, tighten it up, put it in there. Now, on the starter, you want to pull your rope up. There's a little place for it to hook in right there. There's little notches cut in the pulley. And now we're going to wind in this direction. And you'll feel it starting to tense up and tighten as we're winding up that spring. Now this one we got to kind of hold it in place with our thumb while we do this, because we can't put the cover back on this one until it's all the way wound. Some of them will be locked in place and you don't have to hold them down, but this style, you got to hold it down while you wind it up. So we're going to get it all wound, pulled out, sucked up. That's what we want. Snapping all the way back in. Now, cover. Just like that. Now I have 2 screws that are going to go back in here to hold that cover on. 1 and 2. Now we should have a good working starter. So now all we got to do, put the motor back in, put the case back together, it'd be good to go. This one's not getting put back together because this motor is bad, so the rest of the pieces are going to be taken off of this and I'll put in my eBay store. But that is how to fix a starter. Each one's a little bit different how you get to them, but the basic principles of it are all the same. And I will look at some other videos for trimmers. They're the other most common ones that people struggle with. But if you want to leave comments or if you have questions, you can use my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Matt's Equipment Repair. Website's mattsequipmentrepair.com.